3 years ago, winter came early to Copper Ridge, Montana, and Tyler Jackson learned what cold truly meant. The tool shed behind 611 County Road 12 had a door that locked from the outside. Marcus Webb had installed the bolt himself. Told the hardware store clerk it was for security. The clerk had smiled and said that made sense. Everyone smiled at Marcus Webb. Tyler was 9 years old, small for his age, blonde hair that stuck up in the back no matter how much he tried to flatten it. He wore a blue jacket 2 sizes too big because Marcus said growing boys needed room. The jacket had no zipper. The cold came through the gaps like knives. It was November then, too. The kind of night where breath turns to fog before it leaves your mouth, where frost forms on windows in patterns that look almost beautiful until you realize what they mean. Tyler had made a mistake that afternoon. He had taken a granola bar from the pantry without asking. Marcus had seen. Marcus always saw. His voice had stayed calm when he said Tyler needed to learn about consequences, about respect, about following rules in this house where Marcus had so generously taken him in after the accident. The tool shed smelled like motor oil and old wood. A single bulb hung from the ceiling, but Marcus did not turn it on. He guided Tyler inside with a hand on his shoulder. Gentle, almost kind. Then he stepped back and the door swung shut. The bolt slid home with a sound Tyler would remember until he stopped remembering anything. Click. Final. Absolute. Tyler pressed his palms against the door. The metal was already cold. He called out once. His voice sounded small in the darkness. Smaller than he felt. Marcus did not answer. Footsteps crunched away through snow. Tyler tried knocking. Tap, tap, tap. Soft at first because maybe Marcus would hear and understand this was enough. The lesson was learned, but the footsteps kept going. So Tyler knocked harder. Tap, 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 louder. Desperate. The house was 30 yards away. Lights glowed warm in the windows. Tyler could see them through the gap at the bottom of the door, could see shadows moving inside. Normal life continuing while he froze in the dark. He knocked for hours. His knuckles went numb first, then his fingers, then his hands. The tapping got slower, weaker. Eventually it stopped because his body forgot how to make his arms move. Tyler curled into the corner where two walls met, tucked his hands under his arms, tried to make himself small enough that the cold could not find all of him. He thought about his parents, wondered if they were watching from wherever people went after car accidents on icy roads, wondered if they were proud of how brave he was being. He closed his eyes when the shaking got too bad, told himself he was just sleeping. That morning would come and this would be over. That Marcus would open the door and apologize and make hot chocolate like he did sometimes when Tyler had been especially good. Morning came, but Tyler did not wake to see it. Marcus found him at 7 a.m. when the sun turned the frost on the tool shed roof into diamonds. He opened the door slowly, looked at the small body curled in the corner, looked at it for a long time. Then he pulled out his phone and called 911. His voice shook when he spoke, broke on certain words. The operator heard a man destroyed by tragedy, heard grief so raw it could not be faked. The ambulance arrived within 12 minutes. The paramedics worked fast, but their faces said everything. One of them was young, new. She cried in the truck on the way back to the station. Her partner told her she would get used to it, that some calls you could not save, that this was just a terrible accident. The death certificate listed accidental exposure, hypothermia. The medical examiner noted the door had no interior lock, noted that a scared child might not have known to simply turn the handle, noted that tragedies sometimes happen despite everyone's best intentions. The funeral was small. Marcus sat in the front row of Cedar Grove Baptist Church, wore a black suit that fit him perfectly, dabbed at his eyes with a handkerchief his mother had given him. People came up after to squeeze his shoulder, to tell him he had done everything he could, that foster parenting was hard, that Tyler had been lucky to have him for the time they had. The life insurance company sent a check for $50,000 2 weeks later. Marcus deposited it the same day, used some to pay for a granite headstone, used some to pay down his tab at Riverside Casino in Billings, used the rest to make the first payment on a Polaris snowmobile he had been eyeing since summer. At the gravesite, he placed a single white lily, stood with his head bowed for exactly 90 seconds, long enough to be seen, short enough to not seem performative. Then he walked to his truck and drove home and never thought about Tyler Jackson again until 3 years later when the system would give him another boy and another chance to perfect what he had learned. But that was coming. That was the future rolling toward Copper Ridge like a storm front nobody saw building. Right now, it was just Marcus Webb standing at a grave, thinking about timing and money and how easy it was to make people look away. The frozen ground had accepted Tyler without protest. The earth always did. It never asked questions, never demanded proof, never noticed patterns. That was the beauty of winter. It killed quietly, and everyone called it an accident. The Starlight Travel Mart sat off Interstate 94 like a fluorescent promise in the November dark. 24 hours, hot coffee, clean restrooms, all the small comforts that made the Montana cold feel survivable. Griffin Stone had stopped for gas and nothing more. His Harley needed fuel. His body needed a minute out of the wind. Simple transaction. Pull in, fill up, pull out, keep moving because staying still meant thinking and thinking meant remembering. And remembering meant the kind of pain that 12 years had not softened. The neon sign buzzed. Starlight. Like the place had aspirations beyond selling lottery tickets and day-old sandwiches. The parking lot was empty except for a semi-truck idling in the far corner and a station wagon that looked like it had seen better decades. Griff was 65 years old, leather vest over a thermal shirt, gray beard trimmed close, hands scarred from 40 years of motorcycle work and 20 years before that of being the kind of man who solved problems with his fists. The Hells Angels patch on his back was faded but still readable. Copper Ridge chapter. He had walked away from the club 12 years ago, but the patch stayed because some things you earned and some things you wore until you died. He filled the tank watching his breath fog in the cold. November in Montana was not forgiving. The kind of cold that found every gap in your clothing, every mistake in your preparation. The kind that killed if you were not careful. The gas pump clicked off at $43. Griff replaced the nozzle and headed for the building. Hot coffee sounded like salvation. That was when he heard it. Tap, tap, tap. Soft. Almost too soft to register over the wind. But Griff had been listening for wrong sounds his whole life. Had learned in alleys and bars and dark roads that the quiet noises were often the important ones. He stopped, turned his head, listened. Tap, tap, tap. Coming from behind the building. From the alley where the dumpster sat, from a place nobody looked because nobody wanted to see what got thrown away. Griff walked around the corner. His boots crunched on gravel, then on snow. The alley was narrow, dark. The dumpster hulked against the back wall like a sleeping beast. Steam rose from a vent somewhere above. The smell was garbage and grease and something else. Something wrong. Tap, tap, tap. Griff saw the cardboard first. Flattened boxes layered like a failed blanket. Saw the corner of a blue jacket. Too small, too thin. Then he saw the hand. Small fingers extended from a sleeve, knocking weakly against the dumpster's metal base. Tap, tap, tap. The sound of someone who still had enough strength to ask for help. Barely, but enough. Griff moved fast, dropped to his knees, pulled the cardboard away, found what winter had been trying to hide. A boy, maybe 8, maybe 9, pale skin gone wrong colors, lips tinged purple-blue, hair plastered to his forehead with frost, eyes half open but not seeing. Not really. Seeing somewhere past this moment, past this cold, past everything. The boy wore mismatched shoes, one sneaker missing its lace. The other had a split sole that gaped open like a mouth. His sweatpants were soaked from the knees down. Dark wet that meant he had been here long enough for the snow to melt against his body heat, then freeze again, then melt, then freeze. That was bad. That was the body giving up trying to stay warm. Griff touched 2 fingers to the boy's neck, felt for a pulse, found one, thin, slow, the kind that said the heart was tired of fighting. Jesus. The word came out rough. Griff had seen bad things, had done bad things, had spent 20 years being the kind of man mothers warned their children about. But this was different. This was a child turning into ice while a gas station glowed warm 50 feet away. The boy's eyes cracked open wider, tried to focus, failed. His lips moved. Please, the word was barely sound. More breath than voice. Please don't. Griff shrugged out of his leather jacket. The cold hit him immediate and sharp, but he did not care. He wrapped the jacket around the boy, blocked the wind, slid one arm under narrow shoulders and the other under knees. The boy weighed nothing. That was what hit Griff hardest. How light he was. How easy to lift. How close to gone. Hey. Griff kept his voice low. Calm. The voice he used to use calming, spooked horses back when he had a ranch and a wife and a life that made sense. I got you. Stay with me. Give me 60 seconds. The boy's shivers spiked, his body trying one last time to generate heat. Griff stood and walked fast toward the front of the building, toward light, toward warmth, toward whatever chance existed in the next 60 seconds. The door chimed when he pushed through. 3 bright notes, cheerful, wrong for what he was carrying. Inside smelled like burnt coffee and fryer grease. A kid stood behind the counter, maybe 25. Beanie pulled low, half asleep until he looked up and saw what Griff was holding. The kid's face changed fast. Sleep to shock in one blink. Call 911. Griff's voice stayed steady. Certain. Tell them hypothermia. Child. Critical. The kid stared. Now. The kid grabbed the phone, his hand shook dialing. Griff carried the boy to a bench near the space heater, lowered him down careful, wrapped a silver emergency blanket from the first aid kit around the jacket, layer on layer, trying to trap whatever heat was left. The boy's hands stayed tucked under his arms, holding himself. Griff had seen that before, the body knowing what the mind no longer understood, that letting go meant freezing faster. What's your name? Griff asked gentle. The boy's lips moved again. Liam, barely audible. Liam Hayes. How long you been out there, Liam? The boy's eyes drifted, unfocused. Since morning. His voice cracked. He won't wake up anymore. Who won't wake up? My brother. Liam's breath hitched. I tried to keep him warm, but he stopped moving. Jesus Christ. Griff looked back at the door, at the alley beyond. Is your brother still out there? Liam's head moved, not a shake, not a nah. Confusion? No. His fingers flexed under the blanket. Touching something. Hospital. They took him. Said I had to leave. Said I was making it worse. Griff filed that away, stored it with all the other wrong pieces of this story. A sick brother, a boy abandoned, someone who had told this child he was making things worse by being there. The door chimed again. 2 paramedics came through, fast. A woman with gray hair pulled back tight. A man younger, newer. They had that look of people who had seen plenty but were still hoping to save more. The woman pressed a thermometer under Liam's tongue. Her face stayed professional, but her jaw tightened. 90.9. She looked at her partner. We're on the edge. Get me warming packs. Start fluids. We need to move now, she turned to Griff. How long? Found him 5 minutes ago. Been outside since morning by his count. The woman's mouth flattened. She had opinions. Strong ones. But she kept them locked down because opinions did not save children. Action did. They worked efficient. Got Liam on a stretcher. Wrapped him in heat packs. Started an IV. The boy's eyes found Griff's face. Panic rising. The fear that comes when strangers start making decisions about your body. Griff put a hand on the stretcher rail. His fingers were cold from giving away his jacket, but he did not reach for it back. I'm right here. Deal. Liam's eyelids fluttered. A tiny nod. The smallest agreement. The ambulance door shut on that nod. On that tiny piece of trust. Griff watched the lights pull away. No siren. That was either good or bad. Good because it meant not the most critical emergency. Bad because it meant every second mattered too much to waste on warning people to move. The cashier stood in the doorway. His beanie was off now. His hands were still shaking. Did you see him earlier? Griff asked. The kid's throat moved, hard swallow. He was by the pumps. Around 6. That was hours ago. You didn't call anyone, I thought. The kid stopped, started again. I thought he was with someone. Thought he was just waiting. Griff did not say anything. Did not need to. The kid's face said he was already playing that sentence back. Already hearing how it sounded. How easy it was to tell yourself someone else was handling it. Someone else was responsible. Someone else would call. Griff pulled his jacket back on. It still held some warmth from Liam's body. He walked out without coffee. Did not need it anymore. Adrenaline was doing the work. He sat on his bike for a long time. Engine off, hands on the grips, thinking about a boy behind a dumpster, about tap, 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 about how many people had walked past that sound and told themselves it was nothing. His phone buzzed. Text from Reaper. Chapter President, old friend, one of the few people who still called after Griff walked away. You good? Griff typed back. No. Need to talk. Call when you can. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. 5 minutes. Griff pocketed the phone, started the Harley, followed the ambulance's route towards Sacred Heart Medical Center in Billings. 40 miles. He could make it in 30 if he pushed. Behind him, the Starlight Travel Mart glowed in the dark. The neon sign buzzed. The cashier stood in the window watching Griff ride away. His face was the face of someone who would remember this night forever, who would replay it when he could not sleep, who would ask himself what he could have done different. Some lessons came gentle, some came hard. This one would come in nightmares for a long time. Sacred Heart Medical Center smelled like every hospital Griff had ever been in. Antiseptic and fear, and that particular bleach they used to clean up after human bodies stopped cooperating. He found Liam in the emergency bay. Nurses moved around him and practiced choreography. IV bags hung like jellyfish. Monitors beeped steady rhythms. The boy's color was better but not good. Better than purple-blue. Worse than alive. Dr. Meredith Ashford was 38 and looked like she had stopped sleeping about 10 years ago. Dark hair pulled back severe. Eyes that missed nothing. She spoke to the nurses in shorthand. Medical language that sounded like a different species talking. She saw Griff standing in the doorway. Walked over. You brought him in? Yeah. Meredith Ashford nodded once. You saved his life. Another 10 minutes and we would be discussing organ damage. Maybe worse. How is he now? Warming up, slowly. Too fast is dangerous. His core temp was low enough that his body shut down non-essentials. We're bringing him back online careful. He said something about a brother. Meredith's face changed. Subtle shift. The kind doctors learned when delivering bad news. The brother is stable. Came in 2 days ago. Different circumstances. Social services is involved. Griff processed that. 2 days. Liam had been alone since then. Cold and scared and telling himself he was making it worse. Can I see him when he wakes up? Meredith studied Griff for a long moment. Saw the patch, the scars, the age. Made whatever calculation doctors made about who to trust. Family only officially. But I think maybe he needs to see a face he recognizes. So, yes, but keep it brief. Griff nodded, found a chair in the hall, sat down to wait. Waiting was something he had learned to do. 12 years of waiting for forgiveness that never came. Waiting for pain to fade. Waiting for the past to matter less. His phone buzzed. Reaper calling. Griff answered. Talk to me. Reaper's voice came through rough. 60 years of cigarettes and yelling over engines. What's going on? Found a kid, 8 years old. Hypothermia. Someone left him behind a dumpster to freeze. The line went quiet, long enough that Griff checked to make sure the call had not dropped. Where? Reaper's voice had changed, dropped lower. Harder. Sacred Heart. Billings. I'm 3 hours out, Reaper said. Tell me you're staying with him. Yeah. Griff leaned back against the wall. His muscles ached from the cold, from the adrenaline crash, from being 65 and tired. I'm staying. Good, because this sounds like the kind of thing that needs watching. Griff closed his eyes, saw Tyler Jackson in his mind. Except he did not know Tyler Jackson existed yet. Did not know the pattern. Did not know how many times this had already happened. He just knew a boy had been freezing and nobody had stopped. Just knew tap, tap, tap sounded like his own son knocking. Just knew he could not walk away from this. Yeah, he said into the phone. It needs watching. Reaper hung up without goodbye. Old habit, old friend. One of the ones who understood that some silences said more than words. Griff sat in the fluorescent buzz of the hospital hallway and waited for a boy named Liam Hayes to wake up. Waited and wondered who had left him in that alley. Wondered what kind of person could hear tap, tap, tap and walk away. He would find out soon. The charming monster was already on his way, already practicing his smile, already preparing the performance that had worked so many times before. But this time something was different. This time someone was watching who knew what predators looked like, who had been one, who knew that the most dangerous people were the ones everyone trusted. Griff did not know Marcus Webb yet, but Marcus Webb was about to learn that some mistakes you only made once. This was going to be that mistake. Liam woke in pieces. First awareness was warmth, real warmth, the kind that came from heated blankets and machines designed to keep bodies alive. Then pain. His fingers ached like they had been beaten. His toes felt distant and wrong. His chest hurt with every breath. Then memory, the alley, the cold, the stranger with the rough voice who had wrapped him in leather and promises. His eyes opened slow. Found white ceiling tiles, fluorescent lights, the mechanical landscape of hospitals where bodies got fixed. A face appeared above him. Woman, dark hair, kind eyes that had seen too much. Hey, Liam, I'm Dr. Ashford. You're at Sacred Heart Medical Center. You're safe. Safe. The word felt foreign. Liam's hands moved under the blanket, searching, finding. His fingers closed around cold metal. The compass, still there, still his. The needle was stuck. It had been stuck for 16 months, since the day they told him his parents were not coming home from their drive to Billings, since Marcus had arrived at the hospital with paperwork and sympathy and promises that everything would be okay. The compass had belonged to his mother, Linda Hayes. She had given it to him when he was 6, said if he ever got lost, he should find north. That north meant home. That home meant safe. The needle had stopped pointing north the day she died, just stuck, like it was lost too. Liam touched it twice. Old habit, making sure real things were still real. How do you feel? Dr. Ashford was checking monitors, reading numbers that told her things about his body he could not feel. Cold. Liam's voice came out rough, like he had been screaming. He had not been. Had been too scared to scream, but his throat knew what fear tasted like. That will pass. We're warming you slowly. Your core temperature was very low, dangerously low. Another hour outside and we would have lost you. Lost you. Medical speak for died. Liam understood. He had been that close. Where's Eli? His brother's name? The reason he had been at the hospital 2 days ago. The reason Marcus had told him to leave, to wait outside, that children were not allowed in ICU rooms, that he was making things worse. Your brother is stable. You can see him soon. Dr. Ashford paused. Liam, who were you staying with? Liam's fingers tightened on the compass. This was the question he had been taught to answer carefully. The question that had wrong answers and right answers, and Marcus's voice in his head saying what happened if he picked wrong. My uncle. Voice small. Marcus Webb. Where does he think you are? I don't know. Liam's eyes found the window, found darkness outside, found proof that time had passed and Marcus had not come looking. I was supposed to wait outside, while Eli got treatment, but it got dark and cold. I tried to go back in, but the security guard said I had to leave, said I was loitering. Dr. Ashford's jaw tightened. Her professional mask cracked just enough to show anger underneath. Did you try to call your uncle? Liam shook his head. The movement hurt. My phone is at home. Marcus doesn't like me having it at night. Says screens are bad for sleep. The lies came easy now. 16 months of practice. 16 months of learning which truths were safe and which ones got you locked in the garage until you understood better. A knock on the door. The man from the alley stood there. Leather jacket and gray beard and eyes that looked like they had seen the same things Liam had seen. The things nobody talked about. The things that happened behind closed doors. This is Griffin Stone, Dr. Ashford said. He's the one who found you. Griff stepped into the room, moved slow. The way you moved around scared animals, around children who had learned to flinch. Hey kid, how you feeling? Better. Liam's voice was still small but stronger. Thank you for helping. Griff nodded, pulled a chair close, sat down heavy, like his body was tired of holding him up. That compass. Griff gestured at Liam's hand. Looks important. Liam's fingers uncurled, showed the brass circle, the scratched glass, the stuck needle. My mom gave it to me. She said, when you're lost, you find north. Griff leaned forward, studied the compass, saw the initials carved into the back. J plus L, James and Linda. Parents who had loved their son enough to leave him something to hold when they could not hold him anymore. Smart woman, she was. Liam's voice broke on the past tense. On the reality that was is the only verb that mattered now. They both were. Griff recognized the weight in those words. The grief that came from losing people too soon. From being left behind with nothing but objects and memories. I lost someone too. Griff said quiet, long time ago, still hurts. Liam looked up, met Griff's eyes, saw something there he recognized. Pain that did not go away, pain that got learned, got carried, got survived but never forgotten. Does it get better? No, Griff's honesty was sharp, absolute, but you learn to carry it different. Learn that surviving is its own kind of strength. The door opened again. A woman in a gray suit, clipboard, badge on a lanyard, the official look of people who I was carrying in systematic ways. Liam Hayes. Her voice was professional kind. The rehearsed warmth of someone who dealt with broken children often. I'm Claire Morton. I'm with Social Services. Liam's hand closed over the compass. His body tensed. Social Services meant questions. Questions meant answers. Answers meant Marcus finding out what he had said. It's okay, Claire sat in the other chair. Griff stood up, gave them space. I just need to understand your situation. So we can help. I'm staying with my uncle. Liam repeated the safe answer. Marcus Webb, he's my guardian. And where is he now? I don't know. The truth this time? Easier than the lies. He told me to wait outside, while my brother got treatment. But I got cold. I tried to find somewhere warm. Claire wrote something down. Her pen moved steady. Facts getting transformed into paperwork, into cases, into numbers in a system that was supposed to protect children. How long have you lived with your uncle? 16 months. Since my parents died. And how has that been? Liam's throat closed. This was the dangerous question. The one with consequences. He looked at Griff standing by the door, looked at Dr. Ashford checking monitors, looked at Claire waiting with her pen ready to document whatever truth he chose. Fine. The safest lie, the one Marcus had taught him. My uncle takes good care of me. Claire's pen stopped moving. She studied Liam's face, looking for the cracks in the story, the places where truth leaked through. She did not find them. Liam had learned to hide them well. Okay, Claire closed her notebook. I'm going to make some calls. Make sure we get you placed somewhere warm tonight. Somewhere safe. I can go home. Liam said quick, too quick. Panic rising. If I can't go home, Marcus will be worried. We'll contact him. Claire stood. For now you rest. Let your body heal. She left with Dr. Ashford. Quiet conversation in the hallway. Words Liam could not hear but could imagine. Hypothermia, neglect, investigation. All the official sounds of a system that moves slow and careful and never quite fast enough. Griff stayed, sat back down. Kid. His voice was low, certain. You don't have to lie to me. I'm not lying. Yeah, you are. Griff leaned forward, elbows on knees, hands clasped. And I get it. You're scared. You're protecting yourself. But here's the thing. I've seen scared before. I've seen kids who learn to make fear look like fine. And you're doing that right now. Liam's eyes filled. He blinked hard, trying to force the tears back. Trying to be strong because crying meant weak, and weak meant Marcus's disappointment, and disappointment meant consequences. He takes care of me, Liam whispered. He keeps me fed, gives me a place to sleep. I should be grateful. Should be grateful. Griff caught those words, held them. Nobody should have to earn basic safety by being grateful. Where do you sleep? In the house. Where in the house? Liam's mouth opened, closed. The truth wanted out, wanted to be said, wanted someone to hear it and make it stop. But 16 months of training held it back. It's warm. That was all he could give. It's better than the cold. Griff nodded slow, did not push. Knew that pushing scared children made them retreat faster. Knew you had to let them come to you. Let them choose to trust. Okay, Griff stood, but I'm going to be here. And when you're ready to tell me the truth, The real truth. I'm going to listen. Deal. Liam looked at this stranger who had saved him. This man with leather and scars and eyes that said he understood what monsters look like because he had been fighting them his whole life. Deal. Barely a whisper, but a promise. Griff nodded, walked to the door, stopped, turned back. That compass. Get it fixed. A stuck needle can't point north, can't guide you home. But a working one, that can save your life. He left before Liam could respond. Left him holding a compass with a stuck needle and a truth he was too scared to speak. In the hallway, Griff pulled out his phone. Texted Reaper. This is bad. Kid is terrified, lying to protect someone. I need you here now. Reaper's response came fast. 2 hours out. Already moving. Griff leaned against the wall, closed his eyes, saw his own son, Danny, 6 years old. Bruises he had explained away because the foster father was respected, because social services had done home checks, because the system said it was fine, until it was not fine. Until Danny was gone and the system said insufficient evidence and the foster father moved to a different county and got approved for more children. Griff had left the Hells Angels after that, could not be part of a brotherhood when he had failed to protect his own blood, had spent 12 years trying to forgive himself, had failed at that too. But maybe this was the chance. This boy, this Liam, this child who was still alive, still fighting, still holding a compass his mother had given him. Maybe this was where Griff stopped failing. Maybe this was where the pattern broke. Down the hall, a door opened. A man walked in. Tall, clean jacket, expensive boots, hair combed perfect, smile ready. Marcus Webb had arrived to collect what was his, and the performance was about to begin. Marcus Webb understood the value of presentation. 43 years old but looked younger. Good haircut, trimmed beard, clothes that said successful but not showy. The kind of man people trusted on sight because he looked like he belonged, like he had earned his place through hard work and good choices. He carried a paper bag from a bakery, fresh pastries, the smell of sugar and butter, comfort food for a scared child, proof he cared. He walked down the hospital corridor with purpose but not urgency, the posture of a concerned guardian, worried but composed, the balance that made him believable. He saw Griff first. Leather vest, gray beard, Hell's Angels patch. Marcus's assessment was instant. Threat, but manageable. Just keep smiling. Just stay calm. Just be the victim of circumstances. Excuse me. Marcus's voice was warm, textured with concern. I'm looking for Liam Hayes. I was told he was brought in. Griff turned slow, studied the man in front of him, saw the performance, recognized it, had seen predators his whole life, knew what they looked like when they hunted. You're Marcus Webb. I am. Marcus extended a hand, smiled. And you are. Griff did not take the hand, did not smile back. The one who found your nephew freezing behind a dumpster. Marcus's smile flickered. Just for a second, just long enough for Griff to see the calculation happening behind the eyes. The adjustment, the recalibration. Oh God. Marcus dropped his hand, put it over his heart instead. Emotion. Performance. Is he okay? Please tell me he's okay. He's alive. Thank God. Marcus's voice broke. Actual tears formed. The kind that came from practice. From knowing exactly how much moisture made you look genuine. Where did you find him? Starlight Travel Mart, behind the building. But how? Marcus shook his head. Confused, concerned. He was supposed to wait inside. While his brother got treatment, I had to step away, make some calls, handle some things. When I came back, he was gone. I've been looking everywhere. You left him alone at a hospital. Just for a few minutes, Marcus's voice climbed. Defensive but not angry, hurt but not hostile. The perfect tone of a man wrongly accused. He knows to stay put. He knows to wait. I thought he would be safe. It's November, 40 degrees. Kid was outside for hours. I didn't know. Marcus's eyes widened. Please believe me. I would never. He stopped. Let emotion choke the words. The implication that he was too overcome to speak. Griff watched the show, said nothing. Let silence do its work. Can I see him? Marcus asked. Please. I need to see he's okay, doctor. Ashford appeared from a room down the hall. Saw Marcus. Her face went professional neutral. Mr. Webb, doctor, Marcus turned the warmth on her. How is he? How is Liam? Stable. Warming. Lucky. Meredith Ashford's tone was flat, medical, without the compassion she had shown Liam. Another 10 minutes and we would be discussing permanent damage. I can't believe. Marcus put a hand over his face. Breathed hard. This is my fault. I should have checked on him sooner. Yes, Meredith said, you should have. The words landed cold. Marcus looked up, saw the judgment, saw that his performance was not working on everyone. I'd like to see him. Please, he's with a social worker right now. Meredith crossed her arms. And Mr. Webb, we need to discuss some concerns. Concerns. A child was found in critical condition after being unsupervised for hours. That raises questions. Of course. Marcus nodded, understanding, cooperative. I will answer any questions you have. I love that boy. I've been taking care of him since his parents died. This was a terrible mistake, an accident, but I would never intentionally harm him. The words were perfect. The tone was perfect. The face was perfect. Everything about Marcus Webb was designed to deflect suspicion, to make people doubt their own judgment, to make them feel guilty for even questioning him. Griff saw it all, saw the mask, saw the performance, saw exactly what Liam had been living with for 16 months. Claire Morton stepped out of Liam's room, saw Marcus. Her expression stayed neutral. Mr. Webb, I'm Claire Morton, Social Services. We need to talk. Of course, Marcus adjusted his grip on the pastry bag. Whatever you need. Let's step into a conference room. Can I see Liam first? Just for a moment. Let him know I'm here. After we talk. Marcus's jaw flexed. Barely. The first real crack in the performance. Then the smile returned. Smooth. Easy. Of course. Whatever helps. They walked toward a conference room. Marcus glanced back once at Griff. Their eyes met. Something passed between them. Recognition. Understanding. Two predators identifying each other. Except Griff was not hunting anymore. And Marcus was about to learn what happened when you mistook a recovering predator for prey. Griff waited until they were out of sight. Then he walked to Liam's room, knocked soft, pushed the door open. Liam was pressed back against the pillows. His face was pale. His hands clutched the compass so hard his knuckles were white. He's here, Liam whispered. I heard his voice. Yeah, he's here. He'll smile. Liam's voice broke. He'll smile and they'll believe him. They always believe him. Griff pulled the chair close, sat down, looked this terrified child in the eyes. Not this time. You don't know him. Liam's breath came fast. Panicked. You don't know how good he is, how everyone likes him, how he donates to the school and volunteers and everyone thinks he's so kind. I know what he is, Griff said quiet. Certain. I've known men like him my whole life, men who smile while they hurt, who charm while they destroy. I know exactly what he is. Then you know no one will believe me. I believe you. 4 words. Simple. Absolute. And for the first time in 16 months, Liam felt something crack inside. Something that had been holding him together through fear and cold and endless nights locked in a garage laundry room. He started crying. Real crying, the kind that came from deep places, from wounds that had not had permission to bleed. Griff did not move, did not try to comfort, just sat there, present, solid, real. When Liam could breathe again, he looked up, face wet, eyes red. What do I do? You tell the truth, all of it, to Claire, to the doctor, to anyone who will listen. And if they don't believe me, then I'll make them believe it. Also, Griff leaned forward. Kid, I made a lot of mistakes in my life. Hurt people, failed people. But I'm done failing. You understand me. I'm done. Outside the room, Marcus Webb was performing for Claire Morton, explaining, justifying, charming, using every tool in his arsenal to maintain the illusion of being a good man in bad circumstances. But down the hall, his nephew was finding his voice, was learning that sometimes the scariest-looking people were the safest, that leather and scars did not always mean danger, that sometimes they meant protection, and in 3 hours, 180 motorcycles would arrive with a sound like thunder, would form a perimeter around this hospital, would stand between a party and the man who had spent 16 months perfecting his murder. The pattern was about to break. The performance was about to fail. And Marcus Webb's smile was about to meet something it could not charm away. A brotherhood that protected children. A system that finally listened. And a man who had spent 12 years learning to forgive himself by making sure no other Danny died while people looked away. Griff pulled out his phone, texted Reaper one more sentence. I need every brother within 200 miles. Now, the response came back in seconds. On our way, the war was coming. Not with fists, not with violence, but with presence, with witnesses, with proof, with the kind of justice that happened when predators finally faced consequences. Liam held his compass. The needle still stuck, still lost, but north was coming. In the sound of engines, in the thunder of a brotherhood that had seen too many children disappear. North was coming, and Marcus Webb was about to learn what happened when you hurt a child in front of men who had nothing left to lose except their chance at redemption. The performance was over. The truth was beginning, and this time someone was watching. The sound started small, a low rumble from the access road. So distant it could have been thunder trapped under winter clouds. But thunder did not come in November, and thunder did not have rhythm. The first headlights appeared at 4:47 a.m., then more, then rows of them cutting through the dark like a procession. The rumble grew, swelled, became something you felt in your chest before you heard it in your ears. Motorcycles, dozens of them, rolling into the Sacred Heart Medical Center parking lot in disciplined formation. Not the chaos of a gang, the precision of a military unit. Griff stood at the window of Liam's room watching them arrive, watching his past come back in leather and chrome, watching brothers he had not ridden with in 12 years answer a call he had no right to make. But they came anyway, because some debts ran deeper than time. Some bonds lasted past betrayal. Some things you did not question when a brother said now. The engines synchronized, a wall of sound that pressed against the hospital windows. That made nurses pause mid-step. That made security guards reach for radios and wonder what protocol covered this. Then almost together the engines cut. The silence afterward was complete. Perfect. Louder than the roar had been. 180 Hells Angels sat on their bikes in the cold dawn, hands in pockets, shoulders squared against wind, not moving, not speaking, just present, a perimeter of witnesses. Liam pressed his face to the glass. His breath fogged the window. Who are they? Help. Griff said simple. They're help. Why? Because I asked, and because they remember what it means to protect people who can't protect themselves. Outside, Reaper climbed off his bike, 60 years old, face like weathered leather, eyes that had seen every bad thing and decided to keep seeing anyway. He walked toward the entrance with the steady pace of someone who knew exactly where he needed to be. Behind him, the brothers waited, silent, patient, forming a wall between the hospital and the road, between Liam Hayes and whatever came next. Marcus Webb stood in the conference room with Claire Morton and saw the motorcycles through the window. His smile tightened, just barely, just enough. What's going on? His voice stayed calm, but something underneath it shifted. Claire looked out, saw the leather, the patches, the sheer number. I don't know. She pulled out her phone, made a call to hospital security. Marcus watched the men in the parking lot, watched them not moving, not threatening, just standing there like they had every right, like they were daring someone to tell them to leave. This was wrong. This was not how things were supposed to go. This was not the script, not the pattern, not the easy path he had walked so many times before. Reaper found Griff in the hallway outside Liam's room. They looked at each other for a long moment, 12 years compressed into one glance. All the words that had not been said, all the rides Griff had missed, all the funerals he had not attended because facing the brotherhood meant facing what he had failed to do. You look like hell. Reaper's voice was gravel and smoke. Feel worse, Reaper nodded. Understood, glanced at Liam's door. The kid, 8 years old, hypothermia. Guardian left him to freeze. Same guardian is down the hall right now, performing for social services. Performing. You know the type. Smiles pretty, says the right words, makes people doubt what they know is true. Reaper's jaw tightened. We shutting this down. Clean, Griff said. Legal. By the book. No excuses for them to hand him back. Reaper smiled. It was not a kind smile. When did you learn patience? When I realized fists don't fix everything. Only make it easier for them to call us the monsters. They walked to a small chapel on the second floor. 23 chapter officers filed in quiet. No colors, no attitude. Just men who had been called and come. The chapel smelled like lemon cleaner and old prayer books. Reaper stood at the front. Did not need to raise his voice. These men knew how to listen. We got a kid, 8 years old. Name is Liam Hayes, found freezing last night. Guardian is a piece of work. Charming, connected. The kind that gets away with it because everyone likes him. Reaper paused. Let that sink in. We keep this boy safe. We do it clean. We do it legal. We don't give anyone an excuse to hand him back. All in favor, silence. Then hands. Every single one. No debate, no questions. 23 men voting unanimous to protect a child they had never met. Good. Reaper looked at Griff. What do you need? Griff had thought about this, had spent the last hour thinking while Liam slept and Marcus performed and the system moved at its careful pace. I need sheriff. Legal expertise. I need wire. Evidence documentation. I need whisper. Kid needs someone gentle. Someone who knows how to listen to scared children. Done. Reaper pulled out his phone, started texting. What else? Presents, just what we're doing now. Making it clear this kid has people watching. People who won't look away. The chapel door opened, a hospital administrator, nervous, trying to project authority she did not feel. Gentlemen, her voice was professional, but her hands shook slightly. I need to ask what your business is here. Reaper turned slow, fixed her with a look that said everything about who was in charge of this moment. We're visiting a friend. That a problem. We have policies about groups. How many is a group? The administrator hesitated. More than. She stopped. Realized the trap. Any number she said would sound arbitrary. We're not blocking doors. Reaper kept his voice even. Not harassing staff, not making threats, just standing in a parking lot. That legal. The administrator looked at the men in the chapel, looked at the leather and patches and scars, made the calculation between what she feared and what she could enforce. Just keep it peaceful, ma'am. Reaper's voice went soft, respectful. We're here to make sure a child stays safe. That's as peaceful as it gets. She left. The door closed. Reaper looked at his brothers. Deacon handles PR if anyone asks questions. Sheriff interfaces with law enforcement. Wire documents everything. Whisper stays with the kid. Medic coordinates with hospital staff. Everyone else maintains presence. Rotate every 4 hours so nobody gets cold. Nobody gets confrontational. Clear. Clear. 23 voices, one word. They filed out, dispersed, became a machine designed for one purpose. Protection without violence. Justice without revenge. In his room, Liam woke to soft knocking. A man stood in the doorway, late 50s, gray beard trimmed neat, eyes that looked kind in a way that said they had learned kindness after seeing unkindness up close. Hey, Liam, I'm Whisper, friend of Griffin's. Mind if I sit? Liam nodded, still half asleep, still not sure if this was real or another dream where people promised safety and delivered nothing. Whisper pulled a chair close, sat down slow, hands visible, body language open. How you feeling? Better. Liam's voice was small, warmer. Good. Whisper smiled. That's real good. Listen, I'm not going to ask you a bunch of questions. Not going to make you explain anything. Just going to sit here. Case you need someone. Liam studied this stranger, saw something in his face. Something familiar. You were scared once. Liam said it like a fact, not a question. Whisper nodded. Long time ago, when I was about your age. Had a father who thought fists taught lessons better than words. Did someone help you? Eventually. Took a long time. Too long. But someone finally saw, finally believed, finally did something about it. Whisper leaned forward slightly. That's why I'm here. So it doesn't take too long for you. So someone sees right now. Believes right now. Does something right now. Liam's fingers found the compass under his blanket. Touched it twice. Marcus is here. I heard his voice. I know. He'll say I'm lying, that I ran away, that I'm dramatic. That's what he always says. Probably will, and people will believe him. They always do. Whisper was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke in a voice that carried weight. Authority earned through years, not this time. This time you got 180 witnesses. This time you got people who know what liars look like. This time the system can't look away because too many eyes are watching. Liam wanted to believe that, wanted it so bad it hurt worse than the cold had. But wanting did not make things true. He had learned that 16 months ago. I need to tell you something. Liam's voice dropped to whisper. But if I do, if Marcus finds out I told, he'll what? Liam's breath hitched. He said after New Year's. He said he won't have to feed a kid anymore. Said the money clears. Said I should enjoy Christmas because it's the last one. Whisper's face did not change, but his hands did. They tightened slightly on the chair arms. Controlled. Deliberate. He said that exact thing. Those words. Yes. Liam pulled his other hand out, showed the cracked prepaid phone. I recorded it, hid the phone in my jacket lining. He doesn't know I have it. Whisper looked at the phone like it was a live grenade, because in a way it was. Evidence this explosive could detonate a case, could turn suspicion into certainty, could transform one man's word against another into indisputable proof. Liam, that phone, can I see it? If I give it to you, if you listen. Liam's voice broke. You have to promise. You can't let him know it was me. You can't tell him I recorded him. I promise, Whisper extended his hand slow. Palm up, no grabbing, no taking, just offering. We'll protect this, protect you, but I need you to trust me. Liam stared at that open palm. At this stranger asking for trust, when trust had broken him so many times. When trust had gotten him locked in garages and told to be grateful and taught that safety was conditional. But he was so tired, so scared, so done pretending fine was anything but a lie. He placed the phone in Whisper's hand. Whisper closed his fingers around it careful, like holding something sacred. Then he pulled out his own phone, texted one word, wire now or done. Wire arrived within minutes. 45 years old. Looked like an accountant, clean cut, glasses, the kind of man who blended into backgrounds, who people underestimated, who had spent 15 years in digital forensics before the club and knew exactly how evidence worked. He brought gloves, a sealed evidence bag, a small camera, did everything by procedure because procedure was what made evidence stick in court. Liam, Wire's voice was gentle. I need to document this phone. Take photos, preserve it properly. So when we use it, when we present it, nobody can say we tampered with anything. Understand? Liam nodded. Wire pulled on nitrile gloves, photographed the phone from every angle, documented the crack in the screen, the model number, the condition, then he placed it in the evidence bag, sealed it, wrote date, time, location, witness names. Dr. Ashford stood in the doorway, watching. She said nothing, but her presence added weight. Medical professional as witness. Chain of custody clean. Can you describe what's on the recording? Wire pulled out a notebook. Old school, pen and paper, because digital could be hacked. Paper just was. Liam closed his eyes, remembering. It was 2 weeks ago, November 4th. Marcus was on the phone in his office, talking to someone about money, about timing, he said. Liam's voice went flat, distant, the way trauma victims recited horror in monotone. He said, after the first of the year, the trust clears. The county closes the case. Then I don't have to maintain the expense anymore. What expense? Me. Liam opened his eyes, me and Eli. He said, 2 kids is too much overhead. Once the legal paperwork finalizes, I can simplify. Wire wrote it down word for word. Did Liam understand what simplify meant? Yes. Liam's voice was small but certain. It means make us disappear, like Tyler. The room went cold. Wire's pen stopped moving. Who is Tyler? The boy before me. Liam looked at Wire, at Whisper, at Dr. Ashford. Marcus showed me Tyler's picture once. Said Tyler didn't appreciate what he had. Said Tyler made bad choices. Said Tyler's gone now, and that's what happens when kids don't listen. Jesus Christ. Whisper's voice was barely sound. Wire's hand shook slightly as he continued writing. Liam, did Marcus tell you what happened to Tyler? He said it was an accident. That Tyler went outside in winter and didn't come back. That sometimes kids make mistakes and nature doesn't forgive mistakes. Wire looked at Whisper. Something passed between them. Understanding. Horror. The recognition that this was worse than they had imagined. That a pattern existed. That Tyler was not the only name they needed to know. Is the recording still on the phone? Yes, Liam nodded. I listen to it sometimes. To remind myself I'm not crazy. That he really said those things. Wire sealed the evidence bag, stood. This goes to Sheriff Brennan immediately. This recording, combined with medical evidence, combined with your testimony, this changes everything. He left fast. Purpose in every step. Whisper stayed, pulled the chair closer to Liam's bed. You did the right thing. Telling us, showing us. Marcus will know. Liam's fear returned. When they arrest him, when they play the recording, he'll know it was me. By then you'll be somewhere he can't reach, somewhere safe. He always finds me. Liam's voice broke. Every time I tried to get help, every time I told someone, he found out. He smiled. He explained. And everyone believed him. Not this time. Whisper's certainty was absolute. This time the system can't hide, can't look away, can't let him charm his way out. Because we're not going anywhere. Claire Morton sat across from Marcus Webb in the conference room. Her notebook was open. Her pen was ready. Her face showed nothing. Mr. Webb, let's talk about yesterday. Of course, Marcus's performance continued. Smooth, concerned. I'm happy to explain everything. Liam was found at approximately 2:30 a.m. behind a commercial dumpster. Core temperature 90.9 degrees. Critical hypothermia. How long was he unsupervised? I didn't know he was outside. Marcus's voice climbed with just enough emotion. Just enough hurt at being questioned. He was supposed to wait in the family lounge while I handled Eli's paperwork. Insurance forms, medical decisions, the kind of things that take time. How much time? An hour, maybe two. Marcus met her eyes, the picture of a man being honest about difficult circumstances. I know that sounds like a long time, but have you dealt with hospital administration? The forms, the waiting, the phone calls to insurance companies? And during those 2 hours, you didn't check on Liam. Marcus stopped. Let uncertainty show. Let doubt crack his certainty. I thought he was safe. The hospital's warm. There are people. Security. I thought he would be fine for a short time. He was 8 years old. Claire's voice stayed level. Alone in a hospital where he knew no one. He knows to wait. He's good at waiting. Marcus's voice took on a parental firmness, a touch of frustration with a difficult child. I've taught him to be patient, to understand that adults have responsibilities, that sometimes he has to entertain himself. By going outside in November, in 40-degree weather, without a coat. He had a coat, Marcus said quick. I made sure he had a coat. Witnesses say he was wearing a thin jacket, no zipper, completely inadequate for overnight exposure. Then Marcus's certainty flickered. He must have taken off his heavier coat. He does that, gets hot, doesn't think ahead. An 8-year-old removed his winter coat and chose to sleep behind a dumpster. I don't. Marcus shook his head. I don't understand it either. He's been through trauma, lost his parents. Sometimes he makes choices that don't make sense, acts out for attention by nearly freezing to death. I would never want that. Marcus's voice broke again, the performance reaching its emotional peak. I love that boy. I took him in when he had no one. I've given him a home, stability, everything he needs. This was a terrible mistake, a miscommunication. But please don't make it sound like I'm a monster. Claire wrote something down. Let the silence stretch. Let Marcus sit in it. Where does Liam sleep in your home? He has a room. Marcus answered fast. Too fast. What room? Marcus hesitated. Visible? Clear. The garage has a space. It's renovated, heated, insulated. He likes it because it's quiet, away from the main house. He sleeps in your garage. in a room in the garage. Marcus's smile tried to return, weakened. It's quite nice, actually. I've put work into it. Does the door lock? From the inside, for his privacy, not from the outside. Marcus's jaw flexed, his tell, the first real crack in the mask that stayed cracked. There's a bolt for security, but I don't use it to lock him in, just to keep the main door secure when we're away. A bolt that locks from the outside, on an 8-year-old's bedroom. Claire. Marcus leaned forward, using her first name, trying to create intimacy, trying to make this a conversation between reasonable people. You're making this sound sinister. It's not. I'm doing my best. I'm one man raising 2 traumatized children. I make mistakes. But I'm trying. Tell me about Tyler Jackson. The room went cold. Marcus's face froze. Complete stillness. Then movement returned, but different, Ed. Careful. Who? Tyler Jackson, 9 years old, died 3 years ago while in your care. Accidental exposure, that was. Marcus's voice was tight now, controlled. That was a tragedy, an accident. Tyler wandered outside during a storm. I searched for him, called police, did everything I could, and you received $50,000 in life insurance. For burial costs, for grief counseling, for... Marcus stopped, realized how it sounded. It was policy, standard for foster placements. You took out life insurance on a foster child. The agency recommended it. Marcus was back in control, building his defense. They said it was responsible, in case something happened, and something did happen. Yes, Marcus's voice went soft, sad, and I've lived with that guilt every day since, which is why I was so careful with Liam, so protective. Why this situation yesterday breaks my heart. Claire closed her notebook, stood. Mr. Webb, don't leave the county. We'll be in touch. Am I? Marcus stood too. Am I under investigation? We're gathering information, making sure Liam is safe. I want to see him. Please. He'll be scared. He needs to know I'm here. That's not possible right now. Why not? Marcus's voice sharpened, edge showing through smooth. I'm his legal guardian. You can't keep me from him. We can under protective hold. Child in crisis, medical necessity. We'll reevaluate when we have more information. This is ridiculous. Marcus's anger flashed full now. Real, ugly. I've done nothing wrong. This is harassment. He caught himself, pulled back, the mask sliding back into place but slower. Imperfect. I'm sorry. I'm upset. This has been incredibly stressful. I understand. Claire's voice held no sympathy. We'll be in contact. She left him standing in the conference room, left him with his perfect clothes and practiced expressions and fear finally showing in his eyes because the script was not working. The charm was not landing. And somewhere in this building was a child who had evidence and witnesses and people who believed him. Marcus pulled out his phone, made a call. I need a lawyer. Criminal defense. Someone good. Sheriff Dale Brennan was 52 years old and had been county sheriff for 9 years. He had seen abuse cases, had handled investigations that made him sick, had arrested people he had known his whole life. But this had layers that kept getting worse. He sat in his office at 6:15 a.m. with wire across from him, the evidence bag on the desk, the phone visible through clear plastic. You're certain about chain of custody? Wire nodded, documented every step. Child provided phone to whisper in presence of Dr. Ashford. I photographed, bagged, sealed, witnesses signed, and you haven't listened to it. No, sir. Waiting for proper warrant. Doing this right. Brennan respected that. Respected men who knew the difference between evidence that stuck and evidence that got thrown out on technicalities. Tell me about the boy, 8 years old, Liam Hayes. Parents died 16 months ago in highway accident. Lawsuit settlement and life insurance totaled just over $300,000. Marcus Webb as guardian controls the trust, and the recording allegedly shows what? Webb discussing timeline, talking about trust clearing, about not needing to maintain the expense after January 1st, about simplifying his situation. Brennan closed his eyes, felt the weight of what that meant. He was planning to kill the child. That's how Liam interprets it, based on what Webb said about Tyler Jackson. Tyler Jackson, Brennan opened his eyes. I remember that case 3 years ago. Foster kid died of exposure. We investigated. Medical examiner ruled accidental. Case closed. Wire leaned forward. Sheriff, I think we need to reopen that case. Based on what? A recording we haven't heard yet. A child statement made under duress, based on pattern, based on Webb having life insurance on Tyler, based on Webb now having guardianship of another child with a trust fund and talking about timelines. Brennan picked up his phone, called Judge Rachel Morrison. She answered on the second ring, her voice groggy. Dale, it's 6 in the morning, Your Honor. I need an emergency warrant. Audio recording, potential evidence of premeditated harm to a minor. Tell me. Brennan laid it out. The hypothermia, the garage room, Tyler Jackson, the recording. All of it in clean factual terms that judges needed to make decisions. Morrison was quiet for a long moment. The child gave this recording voluntarily. Yes, ma'am, to trusted adults. Documented properly. Get me the affidavit. I'll review it in 1 hour. If it's solid, you'll have your warrant by 8. Thank you, Your Honor. Brennan hung up, looked at Wire. Get me that affidavit. I want dates, times witnesses, medical documentation, Tyler Jackson's death certificate, Webb's financial records, if you can access them. Everything. Wire stood, already moving. On it. And Wire. Brennan's voice stopped him at the door. Tell Griff, tell his brothers. This goes right. By the book. No vigilante bullshit. We do this clean or Webb walks. Yes, sir. Wire left. Brennan sat alone with the evidence bag, with the phone that might contain proof a man planned to murder children. That might show a pattern. That might mean Tyler Jackson's death was not an accident. He pulled Tyler's file from archives, read through the investigation notes, the medical examiner's report, the interviews with Marcus Webb showing a concerned guardian destroyed by tragedy. The notes were thin. The investigation was brief. Everyone had accepted the obvious answer. Foster kid wandered into a storm. Nature killed him. Tragedy. Move on. Nobody had asked the hard questions. Nobody had looked for pattern. Nobody had imagined a man charming enough to kill children and make it look like accident. Brennan called his deputy, told her to pull financial records on Marcus Webb, bank statements, credit cards, tax returns, everything legal without a warrant, everything that showed how a man made money and spent it. Then he called the medical examiner. I need you to review a case from 3 years ago. Tyler Jackson. I need fresh eyes. I need someone looking for what we missed. The pieces were moving. The system was finally paying attention. Finally asking the questions that should have been asked years ago, but systems move slow. And Marcus Webb was smart. Had been getting away with this for 3 years. Knew how to dime, how to delay, how to use lawyers and procedures and reasonable doubt. Outside, 180 motorcycles sat in the parking lot. A wall of witnesses, a promise that this time no one was looking away. Inside, Liam Hayes slept with a compass clutched in his hand. The needle still stuck. Still lost. But the boy was found. Finally, after 16 months of being invisible, the sun rose over Sacred Heart Medical Center, cast long shadows, turned frost into diamonds, made everything look clean and new. But underneath the pretty morning was rot, was pattern, was evil dressed in expensive boots and practiced smiles. And now the rot was being exposed. The pattern was being documented. The evil was finally being named. Part 2 was ending with evidence gathered, with witnesses ready, with a system that had failed moving toward redemption. But the war was just beginning, because Marcus Webb had spent 3 years learning how to hide, how to perform, how to make people doubt what they knew was true. He had one more performance left, one more chance to smile and charm and convince everyone this was all a misunderstanding. And he was preparing for it now, calling lawyers, planning defense, getting ready to fight for his freedom with every tool he had. But this time he would face something new, not a system that looked away, not a child too scared to speak. This time he would face proof, evidence, testimony, and 180 men who had learned that protecting children was the only redemption worth having. The recording would play. The truth would speak, and Marcus Webb's smile would finally fail. Justice was coming. Not fast, not easy, but coming. And Liam Hayes would learn that sometimes the North was not a direction. It was a promise. A place, a moment when scared children stopped being invisible. When tap, tap, tap was finally answered. When the cold ended and warmth began. Part 2 closed with dawn breaking. With evidence sealed. With a child sleeping safe. The worst was still ahead. The trial, the testimony, the moment when Liam would have to face his monster in court and speak truth while Marcus smiled. But that was coming. That was part 3. Right now was just the breath before battle. The moment when everyone knew war was inevitable, but peace still technically existed. Griff stood at the window watching the sun rise, watching his brothers maintain their perimeter, watching a broken system try to fix itself. He thought about his son Danny, about the system that had failed them, about 12 years of guilt and grief and wondering if redemption was even possible. Maybe this was it. Maybe this boy. Maybe this moment. Maybe sometimes you got a second chance to get it right. He pulled out his phone, texted Reaper one sentence. "Thank you for coming." The response was immediate. This is what brothers do. Simple, true, the only answer that mattered. Outside, the motorcycle sat silent. Inside, a child slept safe. Between them stood men who had spent their lives being called monsters, learning that sometimes monsters were exactly what broken children needed. Not to hurt, not to destroy, but to stand watch, to bear witness, to make sure that when tap, tap, tap sounded in the dark, someone finally answered. The perimeter held, the evidence was sealed, the truth was coming, and Marcus Webb's time was running out. Judge Rachel Morrison's courtroom smelled like old wood and older promises. 59 years on earth, 23 on the bench. She had seen every kind of lie dressed up as truth, every predator wearing a victim's face, every system failure presented as noble effort. But this case felt different from the moment she read the affidavit, felt wrong in ways that made her stomach tight, made her think about her own grandchildren, made her wonder how many times she had been too quick to believe the charming defendant over the scared child. The emergency custody hearing was set for 9 a.m. on November 18th, 4 days after Griffin Stone found Liam Hayes turning into ice behind a dumpster. 4 days of investigation. 4 days of secrets becoming evidence. 4 days of a pattern finally getting named. The courtroom filled early. Marcus Webb sat at the defense table in a navy suit that fit perfectly, hair combed, face showing just the right amount of concern mixed with confidence. His attorney was expensive, the kind who charged $500 an hour and earned it by making juries forget what they came in knowing. On the other side, Claire Morton sat with county prosecutors. Behind them, Dr. Meredith Ashford, Sheriff Dale Brennan, Wire with his documentation, medical records, financial statements. A case built on paper because paper did not lie the way people did. And in the back row, 180 men in leather, silent, still. A reminder that some witnesses could not be intimidated, could not be charmed, could not be made to look away. Liam sat in a small room adjacent to the courtroom. Whisper beside him. The boy wore clean clothes donated by the Brotherhood. Jeans that fit, a sweater that was warm, shoes without holes. Small things that should not have mattered but did. His fingers worked the compass. Over and over. The needle still stuck, still lost. "You ready?" Whisper's voice was gentle. No, Liam's honesty was raw. "But I'm going anyway. That's brave. It doesn't feel brave. Feels like throwing up. Brave never feels like you think it will. Feels like being terrified and doing it anyway." The bailiff opened the door, called Liam's name. Whisper stood first, offered his hand. Liam took it, let himself be led into a room where his monster sat smiling like always. "All rise." Judge Morrison entered. Black robe, gray hair pulled back severe, face that gave nothing away. She sat. Everyone else followed. Case number 2025, FC 9183. Emergency custody hearing for Liam Hayes, age 8, and Eli Hayes, age 6 months. Counsel, state your names for the record. Richard Vance for Marcus Webb, Your Honor. Claire Morton for the Department of Family Services. Judge Morrison looked at the packed courtroom. At the leather and patches filling the back rows. Her eyebrows rose slightly, but she said nothing. Just made a note. Mr. Vance, your client is Liam's legal guardian, yet the child was found in critical condition after prolonged exposure. Make your case. Richard Vance stood, moved to the center of the room. Had the mat practiced ease of men who made their living on performance, on making juries forget facts in favor of feelings. Your Honor, my client is a victim of circumstance. He took in 2 orphan children, provided them home, stability, care. On the night in question, there was a miscommunication. The child wandered off while Mr. Webb was handling medical paperwork for the younger brother. A series of unfortunate events. Not neglect, not malice, just tragedy. The child has hypothermia, frostbite, signs of malnutrition. Judge Morrison's voice stayed level. Explain that as miscommunication. The child has issues, Your Honor. Trauma from losing his parents. Acts out for attention. Makes poor choices. Mr. Webb has been patient, understanding. But raising traumatized children is difficult. Sometimes, despite best efforts, things go wrong. Vance pulled out papers, reports showing Marcus's volunteer work, donations to Cedar Grove Elementary, character references from neighbors, teachers, people who knew Marcus as the good man, the kind man, the man who took in children no one else wanted. Judge Morrison read through them. Her face showed nothing, but something in her eyes said she had seen this play before, knew exactly what it was. Ms. Morton, your case. Claire stood, did not move to the center, just spoke from where she was. Clear, direct. Your Honor, the facts are simple. Liam Hayes sleeps in a locked garage room. The lock operates from the outside. The main house has a refrigerator and pantry, both secured with combination locks. The child reports being told food is theft, reports being threatened if he speaks to authorities, reports his guardian discussing timeline and money and plan after the new year. Vance objected. Hearsay, Your Honor, a scared child making accusations. We have more than accusations. Claire pulled out the evidence bag, the prepaid phone visible through plastic. We have a recording, made by Liam, of his guardian discussing, quote, eliminating expenses and, quote, simplifying his situation after trust funds clear. The courtroom went still, that particular stillness that comes when everyone hears the same terrible thing at once. Judge Morrison leaned forward. You have audio evidence? Yes, Your Honor. Properly documented, chain of custody maintained. We also have financial records showing Marcus Webb drained over $200,000 from Liam's trust in 16 months. Vance stood again. Objection? Guardian expenses are legal and documented. For a child who sleeps in a garage. Claire's voice sharpened. Wears shoes with holes. Was found without adequate winter clothing. Where did $200,000 go, Mr. Vance? Judge Morrison held up her hand. Enough. I'll hear the recording. Clear the courtroom except essential personnel. The leather-clad witnesses did not move. Judge Morrison looked at them. At Reaper in the front of that section. At the absolute refusal to leave, written on every face, gentlemen. This is a closed hearing. Reaper stood, slow, respectful, but unmoved. Your Honor, we're here to bear witness, to make sure this child's voice gets heard. We'll be quiet. We'll be respectful. But we're not leaving. Judge Morrison studied him, saw something in that weathered face. Some shared understanding that justice required witnesses, required people who refused to look away. Fine. But any disruption and you're all gone. Clear. Clear, Your Honor. Everyone sat. The courtroom held its breath. Claire set up the audio equipment, pressed play. Marcus Webb's voice filled the room, not the warm, concerned voice he used in public. The other voice, the real one, cold, calculating, discussing timeline like a business transaction. After the first of the year, the trust clears completely. The county closes the guardianship review. I won't have to maintain the expense anymore. 2 kids is too much overhead. Once the legal paperwork finalizes, I can simplify the situation. Another voice asked what simplify meant. Marcus's laugh was casual. Easy. Same as last time. Winter's coming. Nature takes care of problems if you're patient. Tyler proved that. Nobody asked hard questions about accidental exposure. The recording ended. Silence pressed down like a physical weight. Judge Morrison's face had gone pale. Her hands gripped the bench. Marcus Webb sat frozen. His attorney leaned over, whispered urgent advice, but Marcus did not seem to hear, just stared straight ahead at the ruin of his carefully built life. Your Honor, Vance tried, voice shaking slightly. We need to authenticate that recording. Verify it hasn't been tampered with. Already done. Sheriff Brennan stood, voice like gravel. Audio forensics confirm no edits, no manipulation. That's Marcus Webb's voice, discussing premeditated harm to a child in his care. Judge Morrison looked at Marcus, really looked, seeing past the suit and hair and practiced expressions to what sat underneath. Mr. Webb, do you have anything to say? Marcus's attorney whispered no, repeatedly, do not speak. But Marcus was done listening, done performing. The mask was cracking and underneath was something dark and mean, and finally honest. They gave me those kids. Marcus's voice was flat, dead. The system handed them to me, checked a few boxes, signed some papers, never looked close, never asked hard questions. Tyler, Lily, Liam, all of them placed in my care by people who didn't want to know the truth. Lily. Sheriff Brennan's voice cut through. Who is Lily? Marcus smiled. Not the warm smile, the real one. Lily Brennan, 2 years ago, sweet little thing, 7 years old. Parents died in a car wreck. County gave her to me. Emergency placement. She lasted 4 months. The courtroom exploded. Voices, movement. Judge Morrison's gavel cracked like gunfire. Order. Order in this court. But the damage was done. Marcus had confessed, not to one victim, not to two, to three, to a pattern spanning 3 years, to a system that had handed him children and walked away. Sheriff Brennan was already on his radio, calling for warrants, for investigators, for someone to pull Lily Brennan's file from wherever it had been buried. Your Honor, Vance was standing, pale. I need to confer with my client. Too late, Judge Morrison's voice was ice. Mr. Webb just confessed to multiple homicides in open court. Sheriff Brennan, arrest him. Now. Marcus stood as deputies moved toward him. He looked back at the leather-clad men, at Griff standing among them. His smile twisted. You think you saved him. But there are more like me. The system makes us, teaches us where to hide, how to smile, how to make you look away. You can't stop it. It's too big, too broken. Griff stepped forward, voice low, certain. We stopped you. That's enough for today. The deputies cuffed Marcus. Read him rights. Led him toward the door. He looked at Liam as he passed. The boy pressed back against Whisper, but he did not look away, did not cry, just watched his monster being led to a cage. Judge Morrison waited until Marcus was gone. Then she spoke directly to Liam. Young man, you are the bravest person in this courtroom today. What you did, recording that, keeping it safe, speaking truth when truth was hard. That took courage adults spend their whole lives trying to find. Liam's voice was small. Is he going to jail? Yes, for a very long time. And Eli and me, where do we go? Claire spoke up. We're locating family, an aunt, Thea Calloway. She's been trying to reach you for months. Your guardian blocked her calls, told her you were fine. That contact would be disruptive, Aunt Thea. Liam's face changed. She used to take me to the zoo. Before Mama and Papa died. She wants to see you. Claire smiled for the first time that morning. She's been fighting for you, though. The system just made it too hard. Judge Morrison signed papers. Emergency protective custody, immediate family placement pending full evaluation. Marcus Webb to be held without bail pending trial. This hearing is adjourned, but let the record show this court failed 3 children, Tyler Jackson, Lily Brennan, and nearly Liam Hayes. That failure is unacceptable. There will be investigations, reforms. People will answer for how this was allowed to happen. She looked at the men in leather, at Griff and Reaper and all the witnesses who had refused to leave. Thank you for being what the system should have been, for standing watch, for making sure this time someone saw. The gavel came down. Final, Marcus Webb's performance was over. His smile had failed. His charm was broken, and Liam Hayes was free. 3 weeks later, the truth came out in pieces, each one worse than the last. Tyler Jackson's grave was exhumed. Forensic pathology found evidence of prolonged hypothermia. Frostbite on fingers and toes suggesting he had been exposed for hours. Not sudden storm exposure. Not quick accident. Slow death while someone watched. Lily Brennan's file was pulled from archives. Death certificate said drowning, bathtub accident. But the investigation notes were thin. Too thin. Questions not asked. Evidence not gathered. A case closed before it really opened. Her grandmother, Margaret Brennan, was found in Seattle. 72 years old and still fighting. Still writing letters to county offices. Still demanding someone look at how her granddaughter died. Still being told the case was closed. The Guardian was cleared. Stop making trouble. She came to Montana for the trial. Sat in the front row every day. White hair pulled back. Face carved with grief. Eyes that demanded justice finally be served. The trial took 2 weeks, not because evidence was lacking, but because the scope kept expanding. Financial crimes, insurance fraud, guardian abuse. 3 counts of second-degree murder as the medical evidence mounted. Marcus's defense was simple. He was overwhelmed, trying his best. The deaths were accidents. The money was legal guardian expenses. The recording was taken out of context. He was tired, stressed, said things he did not mean. But the prosecution had more than words. They had patterns, had financial records showing systematic theft, had medical evidence of prolonged neglect, had witnesses who had tried to report concerns only to be dismissed. And they had Liam, 8 years old, taking the witness stand in a courtroom full of strangers. Whisper walked him to the stand, squeezed his shoulder once. Liam climbed into the chair. His feet dangled. The microphone was adjusted down. The prosecutor was gentle, a woman named Janet Cross who specialized in child victims, who knew how to ask questions that did not re-traumatize, who understood that 8-year-olds needed different handling than adults. Liam, can you tell the jury about your room? I slept in the garage, in a little space by the laundry machines. Was it warm? Sometimes. When Marcus turned on the heater, but mostly he didn't. Why not? He said electricity was expensive, said I needed to learn about consequences. Consequences for what? For being extra, for costing money, for needing things. What kind of things? Food. Liam's voice was steady, flat, the monotone of trauma, clothes, warmth. He said those things had to be earned. How did you earn them? By being good, by not asking questions, by staying quiet when people came over, by pretending everything was fine. Did you tell anyone it wasn't fine? I tried. Liam looked at the jury, at 12 faces watching him. I told my teacher I was hungry. She told Marcus. He brought donuts to school the next day. Everyone laughed, said how sweet he was. After that, she stopped asking. Did you try to tell anyone else? A lady at the gas station, she asked if I was okay. I said I needed help. She asked where my parents were. I said they were dead. She said I should pray and drove away. The courtroom was silent except for the scratch of the court reporter's pen. Every word getting documented, every truth getting preserved. Why didn't you call the police? Marcus said if I called the police, they would separate me and Eli, put us in different homes, said we would never see each other again, said that's what happened to kids who complained. And you believed him? Yes. Liam's voice broke. Because it happened before, after Mama and Papa died. Foster care separated us. It was true. Janet Cross showed the jury photos, the garage room, the locked pantry, the chained refrigerator, the calendar with January 3rd circled. Evidence that did not need explanation. Marcus's attorney tried to cross-examine, tried to suggest Liam was confused, traumatized, making things worse than they were. But Liam had something new, something he had been practicing with Whisper. Truth that did not apologize. I'm not confused. Liam looked at the defense attorney, at Marcus sitting behind him. I know exactly what happened. Marcus locked me in that room. Marcus took my parents' money. Marcus told me I wouldn't make it to next year. I recorded him saying it. You can't make that not true. No further questions. The attorney sat down fast. The jury deliberated for 2 hours. came back with faces that said they had seen evil and named it. Count 1. Second-degree murder of Tyler Jackson. How do you find? Guilty. Count 2. Second-degree murder of Lily Brennan. How do you find? Guilty. Count 3. Attempted murder of Liam Hayes. How do you find? Guilty. The counts continued. Fraud, theft, abuse. 18 charges total. 18 guilty verdicts read in steady succession. Marcus sat still through it all. No more smile, no more performance. Just a man who had spent 3 years getting away with murder, learning what happened when someone finally paid attention. Sentencing came 2 weeks later. Margaret Brennan spoke first, voice shaking with age and anger and grief that would never fully heal. My Lily was 7 years old. She loved butterflies, drew them on everything, wanted to be an artist when she grew up. Marcus Webb took that future, erased it, for $35,000. That's what her life was worth to him. She looked at Marcus. He will never say he's sorry, never admit what he did, but I want him to know Lily mattered, Tyler mattered, Liam mattered, and the world knows now, knows what he is. That's not justice, but it's something. Judge Morrison sentenced Marcus to 17 years in state prison. No parole eligibility for 10 years. Restitution ordered to all 3 families. Permanent termination of any guardian rights. This court acknowledges its failure. Judge Morrison's voice was heavy. The system that should have protected these children instead enabled their abuse. That will not stand. There will be reforms, training, oversight. Tyler and Lily cannot be brought back, but we can ensure their deaths were not meaningless. Marcus Webb was led from the courtroom in chains. He looked back once at the gallery full of leather and witnesses and families he had destroyed. His face showed nothing. No remorse, no fear, just emptiness. Griffin Stone watched him go, thought about his son Danny, about 12 years of guilt, about how justice for one child did not undo the failure of another. But it was something, a start, a proof that sometimes the system could learn, could change, could get it right when enough people refused to let it fail. Outside the courthouse, reporters clustered, cameras ready, questions prepared. But Reaper handled it, gave a statement written by people who understood public relations. We are not heroes. We are witnesses. We stood watch because that's what brothers do. Because children should not have to freeze to prove they need help. Because the system should not require perfect victims before it listens. 3 children died before someone paid attention. That number should have been 0. The cameras captured it all. The leather, the gravity, the absolute refusal to let this be softened into feel-good story. This was tragedy. This was failure. This was what happened when looking away became normal. But this was also proof that witnesses mattered, that standing watch made a difference, that sometimes the people society feared most were exactly what broken children needed. Liam Hayes met Aunt Thea Calloway 3 days after the guilty verdict. She came to the temporary foster placement where he and Eli were staying, drove 5 hours from Billings, pulled up in a station wagon with child seats already installed. She was 35, dark hair like Liam's mother had been, same green eyes, same hands that moved while she talked. The Hayes genetic legacy written in features Liam recognized. She stood on the porch of the foster home, coat buttoned against cold, face showing every emotion at once. Relief, grief, anger at how long this had taken, fear that it still might not work. Liam opened the door holding Eli. His brother was 6 months old now, getting bigger, getting healthier, starting to smile at people instead of flinching. Aunt Thea. Liam's voice was small. Oh, baby. Thea's voice broke. She dropped to her knees right there on the cold porch, held out her arms but did not grab, did not assume, just offered. Liam studied her, this stranger who was family, this person he barely remembered from before, from when life was normal and parents were alive and nothing bad had happened yet. He took one step forward, then another. Let her fingertips touch his shoulder. Let her prove she was real, that this was not another trick. Another promise that would break. I've been trying to find you. Thea's tears fell steady. For months, they told me you were fine. That contact would be disruptive. I believed them. I'm so sorry I believed them. It's okay. Liam's therapy had taught him that other people's failures were not his to carry, that sorry mattered but action mattered more. I have a house. Thea pulled back, gave him space. 2 bedrooms, yours and Eli's. I have a job. I have references. I did everything the county asked. Passed every check. I'm ready. If you're ready. Liam looked at Eli in his arms, at his brother who had stopped breathing properly that morning behind the hospital, who Marcus had planned to let die, who was alive now because Griff had heard tap, tap, tap and actually stopped. We're ready. The kinship placement took 2 weeks of paperwork, home visits, interviews, psychological evaluations, the system being careful this time, learning from what Marcus had taught them about the cost of assuming good intentions. But Thea passed everything. And on December 8th, Liam and Eli moved into a small house at 2148 Walnut Avenue. Small yard, quiet street, normal house where normal people lived normal lives without locks on refrigerators or threats about winter. Liam's room had a real bed, soft blankets, a window that opened, a door that locked from the inside only, a nightlight he could control, small things, essential things, the building blocks of safety. On the nightstand he placed the compass, still broken, still stuck, but Wire had taken it to a jeweler, an old veteran named Hank Porter who fixed watches and did not ask questions. The compass came back 2 weeks later in a small box, wrapped careful. Liam opened it slow, afraid somehow it would still be stuck, still lost. But the needle moved, smooth, clean, found magnetic north and held it steady. Liam turned the compass in his hands, watched the needle track, watched it point home, point to safety, point to the direction his mother had told him to go when lost. He touched it twice. Old habit, but this time the needle stayed true. Whisper had driven him to pick it up, saw the tears, put a hand on Liam's shoulder. North is whatever you need it to be. Sometimes it's a direction. Sometimes it's a person. Sometimes it's just knowing that loss doesn't have to be forever. 6 months after the trial, Liam returned to the Starlight Travel Mart. Not because he had to, because he wanted to, because some circles needed closing. Griff drove him on the Harley, let him wear a helmet 3 sizes too big, let him hold on tight while they rode the same roads he had walked alone and frozen. The Travel Mart looked different in summer sunlight. Less threatening, less like a place where children died. Just a gas station selling coffee and lottery tickets to people passing through. Sawyer Beckett stood behind the counter, still wearing his beanie. But now he had a red vest with a patch that said, Child Safety Trained. The Travel Mart had installed a heated alcove by the entrance. A sign in clear language said, if you need help, ask. No questions, no judgment. Sawyer saw Liam come in. His face changed. Relief and guilt and something like redemption mixed together. Hey. Sawyer came around the counter, knelt down. I'm glad you came back. Liam looked at this man who had seen him freezing and convinced himself someone else would handle it, who had lived with that choice for 6 months, who would live with it forever. I don't blame you. Liam had practiced these words with his therapist. You were scared. I understand scared. I should have helped. Sawyer's voice was thick. Should have called. Should have done something. I think about it every day, but you're helping now. Liam gestured at the alcove, at the sign, at the evidence that one failure had become a lesson that might save someone else. Trying to. Sawyer wiped his eyes. Trying to make it mean something. Griff stood by the door, watching, not interfering, letting Liam have this moment. This proof that victims could face the past without being consumed by it. Outside, the Harley caught sunlight, chrome gleaming, the machine that had brought them here that November night, that had carried a freezing child toward warmth. They left without buying anything. Did not need to. The visit itself was the transaction. The closure, the proof that Liam Hayes had survived, had healed, had learned to be brave in ways that mattered. On the ride back, Liam held the compass in one hand, felt the needle point north even while they moved. Even while directions changed, north stayed constant, stayed true. That was what Mama had meant. Not that north was one place, but that north was the thing that guided you home, that brought you back to yourself, that proved lost was temporary if you kept looking for the lights. 18 months after Griff found him behind a dumpster, Liam stood in front of Cedar Grove Elementary Assembly. 9.5 years old now, taller, steadier, scars mostly hidden except the ones that would always show in how careful he was with trust, how slowly he let people in. But he had agreed to speak, to tell his story, because Whisper had taught him that sharing trauma could prevent it, could show other scared kids they were not alone. The auditorium was full, 3rd through 5th graders, teachers, parents, the principal who had once dismissed concerns about Marcus Webb because he donated money, who had learned that charm could be camouflage, who would carry that lesson forever. Liam walked to the microphone, held his compass in one hand, let it ground him. "My name is Liam Hayes. I'm here to talk about being brave when you're scared." He showed them the compass, explained how his mother had given it to him, how the needle had been stuck for 16 months, how broken things could be fixed. "I was lost, really lost, cold and scared and alone. I asked people for help. Most of them said no, or said they were too busy, or said it wasn't their problem. But one person stopped. One person listened, and that was enough. He told them about Griff, about the Harley, about 180 motorcycles forming a perimeter of witnesses. He did not tell them the worst parts, did not describe the garage room or the locks or Marcus's voice on the recording. They were children. They did not need that weight, but he told them the truth that mattered. If you're scared, if someone is hurting you, if you need help, tell someone. Keep telling until someone listens. Don't give up. Don't think you're alone. There are people who will stop, who will listen, who will believe you. He held up cards with hotline numbers, numbers that went to trained counselors, to people whose job was listening to scared children, to systems that had learned from failures and built something better. You don't have to freeze before someone helps. You don't have to record evidence. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be honest. Just have to say the words, "I need help." The auditorium was silent, not the silence of boredom, the silence of children processing, learning, understanding that the adult world had monsters, but also had people who fought monsters. Liam saw other kids, ones who sat too still, ones whose eyes were too old, ones who understood exactly what he was talking about because they were living it right now. He made eye contact with them, held it, tried to send the message that words could not carry. "I see you. You're not invisible. Your fear is real. And help exists if you ask for it." After the assembly, 3 kids took the cards, tucked them away careful. One girl approached him afterward, maybe 10, bruises on her wrist she tried to hide with long sleeves. "Does it get better?" Her voice was barely audible. Yes, Liam's certainty was absolute. But you have to take the first step. You have to tell someone. What if they don't believe me? Then you tell someone else. Keep telling until someone does. It only takes one person to change everything. The girl nodded, clutched the card, walked away with something new in her shoulders. Hope, maybe, or just the knowledge that she was not alone. Griff watched from the back of the auditorium. Beside him, Thea, Whisper, Wire, Reaper, the brothers who had answered a call 18 months ago, who had stood watch, who had refused to let another child disappear. They had started the North Star Children's Shield Fund 6 months after the trial, a nonprofit with proper oversight, proper accounting, no shortcuts, no assumptions, everything the system should have been from the start. The first year they raised $162,000, helped 14 at-risk kids across 2 counties, funded therapy, winter clothing, emergency placements, legal fees for families fighting custody battles against charming predators. The second year they expanded to 4 counties, built partnerships with schools, trained teachers to recognize signs, trained social workers to ask harder questions, trained communities to understand that looking away was not neutral, was choosing the predator over the victim every single time. They erected a small memorial at Cedar Grove Elementary, 3 names carved in stone. Tyler Jackson, age 9, remembered. Lily Brennan, age 7, remembered. And underneath in smaller letters, Liam Hayes, age 8, survived. Not to make Liam special, but to show that survival was possible, that lost children could be found, that frozen children could be warmed, that stuck needles could point north again. Margaret Brennan came to the dedication, stood with Thea and Liam. 3 generations of people who had lost family to violence, who had learned that justice was not the same as healing, but was necessary for healing to start. My Lily would have liked you, Margaret told Liam. Would have been proud of how brave you are. I'm sorry I couldn't save her. Liam's guilt was something therapy addressed but could not erase. If I had told someone sooner, if I had been braver faster. Margaret took his hand, held it gentle. You were 8 years old. Saving yourself was enough. Saving your brother was heroic. You don't carry responsibility for adults who should have known better. But Liam would carry it anyway. Would always wonder about the children before him. Would always know that his survival came at the cost of others who were not as lucky, not as loud, not found in time. That was the weight of being saved. The knowledge that salvation was random, that timing mattered, that tap, tap, tap had sounded for Tyler and Lily too, but nobody had heard it. That knowledge would make him careful, make him kind, make him the kind of person who stopped when others walked past, who listened when others dismissed, who believed when others doubted. Marcus Webb sat in Montana State Prison serving year 2 of 17. He received no visitors, wrote no letters, spent his days in medium security surrounded by men who understood exactly what he was. Child killers did not fare well in prison. Even among criminals, some lines were sacred. He had tried appeals, argued coerced confession, improper evidence, prejudiced jury. Every appeal had failed. The recording was clean. The confession was voluntary. The jury had been thorough. He would serve every day of those 17 years, would be 55 when eligible for parole, would face a board that would review his crimes and determine if he showed sufficient remorse. He would not. Remorse required empathy, required seeing victims as human, required understanding that children's lives mattered more than insurance payouts and trust funds. Marcus Webb understood none of those things, so he would sit in his cell, count days, grow old, die eventually having spent the best years of his life in a cage he built himself. That was not redemption. Not justice for Tyler and Lily, but it was consequence. It was proof that eventually predators faced reckoning. Eventually charm failed and truth won. On Liam's 10th birthday, Thea threw a party. Small, just family, the brothers who had become uncles, Margaret Brennan who had become honorary grandmother, Dr. Ashford who still checked on him, Sheriff Brennan who had investigated until the truth came out. They gathered in Thea's backyard, summer sun warm, grass green, everything uneven growing. Eli toddled around chasing butterflies, 2 years old and perfect. No memory of the cold, no nightmares about garage rooms, just a child being a child. The cake had a compass on top made of frosting, the needle pointing north. Liam blew out 10 candles, made a wish he did not share. Some wishes were private, some hopes too fragile to speak. Griff gave him a gift wrapped careful. Liam opened it slow, found a photograph. Old, faded. A young man in Navy uniform. Griff at 19, face unlined, eyes not yet shadowed by everything they would see. That's you. Liam studied the photo. Long time ago. Before I made mistakes. Before I failed people. Griff's voice was rough. Before I learned that living right means showing up, means standing watch, means answering when you hear tap, tap, tap. You didn't fail me. No, but I failed my son, failed to protect him from the system, from people like Marcus. Spent 12 years hating myself for it. And now I know that one saved child doesn't fix one lost child. But it matters anyway. You matter. Eli matters. Every kid we help through the fund matters. Liam looked at the young man in the photo, at the person Griff had been before life taught him hard lessons. Before he became the kind of man who stopped at gas stations and listened to quiet sounds in alleys. Thank you for hearing me, for believing me, for not walking away. Griff pulled Liam into a hug, brief, careful. Respecting that touch was complicated for children who had been hurt, but real, solid, the kind of hug that said you matter and I'm glad you're alive. As the sun set over the backyard party, as Eli fell asleep in Thea's arms, as the brothers packed up and said goodbyes and promised to come back soon, Liam stood holding his compass. The needle pointed north. Steady, true, unbroken. He thought about his mother, about the day she gave him this, about her voice saying, "When you're lost, find north." About how she could not have known how lost he would become, how far he would have to travel to find his way home. But here he was, 10 years old, alive, safe, surrounded by people who chose to be family, who proved that blood was not the only thing that bound people together. That sometimes family was forged in fire, in crisis, in the moment when strangers decided to become witnesses. Liam closed the compass, felt its weight in his palm, proof that broken things could be fixed, that lost could be found, that north existed even when you could not see it. Somewhere in Montana, a child was scared, was cold, was hoping someone would notice, would stop, would listen. And because of Liam's story, because of Tyler and Lily, because of 180 motorcycles in the perimeter they formed, because of a system that finally learned, someone would notice, would stop, would listen. The Starlight Travel Mart had its heated alcove. Cedar Grove Elementary had its training. The county had its oversight. The state had its reforms. Small changes, insufficient payment for lives lost, but changes that meant the next tap, tap, tap would be heard faster. Believed quicker, answered sooner. That was the legacy, not vengeance, not perfect justice. Just the slow work of making sure fewer children had to freeze before someone helped them. Liam Hayes had survived, had testified, had learned to trust again, had become the kind of person who would stop for scared children because he remembered being one. The compass pointed north. The needle never stuck again. And every time Liam checked it, he remembered his mother's voice. Remembered that lost was temporary if you kept moving toward the lights. The lights had come, in the form of a biker with gray beard and scarred hands, in the form of 180 brothers who knew what protecting meant, in the form of a system that finally listened. The cold had ended, the warmth had begun, and Liam Hayes was home. Not the home where his parents had lived. That was gone. Lost to highways and winter and time that could not be reversed. But home as a concept. Home as safety. Home as the place where people kept promises. Where doors locked from the inside only. Where food was not theft and warmth was not earned. Home where a compass pointed true and north meant tomorrow, and tomorrow meant hope. The frozen boy had thawed. The lost child had been found. The broken compass had been fixed. And somewhere in the dark, a scared child heard the story. Learned that asking for help was not weakness. Learned that survival was possible. Learned that tap, tap, tap could be answered if you were brave enough to make the sound. That was everything. That was enough. That was the meaning found in frost and fear and one man who refused to walk away. The end was really a beginning. The beginning of children being seen, of witnesses refusing to look away, of a system learning that charm could kill and silence could murder. The beginning of North being more than a direction, being a promise, a person, a moment when frozen children remembered they were human, were worthy, were seen. Liam Hayes stood in the backyard holding a compass that worked, surrounded by family that chose him, pointed toward a future that was his to build. The needle found north, held it steady, proved that some things once lost could be found again. And that was the only ending that mattered.